Mike Tyson's fights are often remembered for the power and confidence he exuded in the ring. But did you know that some of his fights have stories that trace back years before they even happened? Welcome. In today's video, you will see Mike Tyson fight in two different stages of his life, displaying great ferocity in both. However, you will also learn what led him to be so relentless on those two nights inside the ring. Stay until the end to understand the why behind the how in Mike Tyson's victories over Donovan Ruddock and Olympic gold medalist Tyrell Biggs. Content: Mike Tyson versus Donovan Ruddock. The year was 1991, and everyone was betting on who could defeat the no longer invincible Mike Tyson. After becoming the youngest heavyweight champion in history and subsequently losing his titles, Tyson seemed like an easy target, but he was anything but. Along those lines, Donovan Ruddock was just one of many fighters who hoped to take advantage of Tyson's perceived downfall. However, fate, ever unpredictable, proved that in the noble art of boxing, things don't always go as planned. On March 18, 1991, both fighters stepped into the ring at the Mirage Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, to headline one of the most exciting heavyweight eliminator fights of the year. 12 rounds of elite boxing, closely watched by the critical eyes of judges Jerry Roth, Chuck Giampa, and Dave Moretti. Tyson entered the fight as the #1 heavyweight contender for the WBC, WBA, and IBF. And why wouldn't he be? With an almost flawless record of 39 wins, 35 of them by knockout, and only one prior loss, he was still a force to be reckoned with. Ruddock wasn't far behind, ranked as the #2 heavyweight contender by the same organizations. His professional record of 25 wins, including 18 by knockout, along with 1 loss and 1 draw, justified his high ranking. One thing was certain: it was going to be an explosive fight. But which corner would suffer the most damage from the impact? With Richard Steele as the third man in the ring, everything was set to find out the answer to that question. Fight summary. Mike Tyson came out of his corner with great aggression, forcing Ruddock to dance around the ring until he stumbled a couple of times. Ruddock likely didn't expect this level of intensity in the opening seconds of the first round, so he quickly resorted to clinching in an attempt to neutralize Tyson. However, Tyson, relentless by nature, managed to land powerful body shots on his challenger.
Uma luta que tem tudo. Tyson de calções negros, Tyrell Ruddock calções brancos. Passe em braço de Ruddock. Pegou bem, né? De primeiro round. Tyson solta a esquerda. Ela veio por baixo e imediatamente cima. O outro de esquerda na linha de cintura. Tyson vai descendo.
Mike asserted his dominance over Ruddock as soon as the second round began. Ruddock tried to extend his left hand to keep Tyson at bay, but Tyson's devastating combinations quickly closed the distance. A brutal left hand caused Ruddock's first knockdown of the fight. He managed to get up and continue, but he became a much more cautious fighter. Even after a break, Ruddock clung to Tyson like a leech, desperately trying to buy enough time to survive.
Ruddock de direita, no passo atrás, direita à frente, vai minando a resistência do adversário. O Hulk entrando outra vez. Ruddock soltar a nuca de Tyson, lá vai ele outra vez.
Ruddock opened the third round by extending his left and stepping back, hoping to stay out of reach of Tyson's relentless punches. Tyson, in complete control of the center of the ring, took short steps in any direction Ruddock moved, attacking his body whenever an opening presented itself. Mike had to start landing quick punches before the clinches, given how frequently Ruddock relied on them. Still, nothing could save the fearful Canadian from his fate. With less than 10 seconds left in the round, Ruddock finally seemed to gather some courage, showing signs of initiative by throwing a weak combination. Tyson responded with a monstrous left hook that sent him crashing down for the second time.
Outra vez, insiste nesse trabalho na linha de cintura, mais de 100 quilos em cima de Tyson. Vem batendo muito por baixo, tá ali embaixo de esquerda, batendo, chamando a guarda do Ruddock para baixo para cruzar a esquerda lá em cima. Segundos finais. Terceiro assalto de uma luta prevista para 12. Tentativa de contra-ataque de Ruddock. Aquele que vencer terá o direito de enfrentar o vencedor de Holyfield. Fora, não pegou a esquerda!
Sitting on the canvas, Ruddock's face told the whole story. No one could believe what was happening less than him. Steele began the mandatory count. After getting up, the shaken Canadian truly understood the meaning of being saved by the bell. The fourth round started with Ruddock holding onto Mike, who immediately pressed forward. At this point, the Canadian was blatantly running from the fight, even backing into the ropes multiple times when he ran out of space to retreat. His only move to counter Tyson's ruthless offense was to cling to his body, but Mike responded with body shots before the break. The question remained, how much longer could the cowardly Canadian buy himself with this strategy?
De nocautear o adversário é que ele se transforma acima. Olhar fixo no adversário. A esquerda ali. Agora foi a direita que pegou na linha de cintura. A esquerda cruzada. Vai armando.
Tyson landed powerful shots in the 5th round whenever Ruddock wasn't holding on to him. The Canadian kept retreating and clinching in dangerous situations, throwing fewer punches each time, with even less willingness to exchange blows up close.
Pouco mais Razor Ruddock. Isso é que ele tinha que fazer. Trabalhar essa esquerda à frente, de lutar bonito. Lá vai ele para cima. Tentando entrar.
Back in his corner, Ruddock looked exhausted. To him, it now seemed more like a test of endurance rather than strength. Before the bell rang to start the 6th round, Tyson locked eyes with Ruddock and made a key gesture with his left hand toward the center of the ring. The youngest heavyweight champion in history was telling him, "Stand your ground." But the Canadian wasn't brave enough to accept the challenge. Instead, he immediately backed up until his back hit the ropes and latched onto Tyson on the rebound. Tyson, running out of patience, delivered precise power punches, sometimes in combinations, before Ruddock's repetitive clinching halted his offense. During the last 30 seconds of the round, Ruddock experienced firsthand how his survival plan was beginning to crumble. However, this was only the beginning of his final downfall. Nothing could save him from what was just around the corner.
Solta pouco mais o. Tenta a esquerda Ruddock, vem o contra-ataque na direita de Tyson. Passo à frente para tentar entrar ali na luta corporados. É bom dizer que o Ruddock... Olha só a esquerda. Entrou a direita, entrou a esquerda, entra a esquerda de novo. Temos esquerda. Entrou a direita quando o Tyson fazia ali uma micagem.
The 7th round began as usual, Mike standing firm, ready for battle, and Ruddock determined to escape for the next 3 minutes. The brutality of Tyson's short yet devastating attacks escalated progressively until reaching its peak. Tyson stopped Ruddock with a lethal flurry of punches that made him stagger. And had it not been for Steele's intervention, the honorable boxing ring might have turned into a gruesome crime scene. Thus, at 2 minutes and 22 seconds into the 7th round, Mike Tyson defeated Donovan Ruddock for the first time by technical knockout.
A esquerda, por 2 vezes, o cruzado de esquerda de Tyson não achou não. Se pega na final de luta. Tyson, eu tenho a impressão até que você podia ter perdido um ponto do arco. O upper curtinho, o cruzado de esquerda, recebe a direita. Pegou a esquerda, acabou aí.
Mike Tyson versus Tyrell Biggs. If you thought the previous fight had history, let me take you back a couple of years when an undefeated Iron Mike faced the man who had stolen his greatest dream. Before making his professional debut, Tyson was preparing to represent the United States in the 1984 Olympic Games. When the time came, a disciplined and young Mike Tyson entered the selection process, only to be coldly rejected because he was not tall enough. In hindsight, knowing that Iron Mike would become a knockout machine even against 2-meter-tall giants in the ring, his height was never going to be an issue. But at that time, it was a risk the selectors were unwilling to take. Instead, they chose Tyrell Biggs, a man who met all the qualities the US boxing team was looking for, and more importantly, was taller than the average fighter. Mike accepted his fate with honor and even went to the airport to wish the team well. But instead, he was humiliated. In front of everyone, Biggs repeatedly joked about not knowing who the young man there to see them off was. But he was sure of one thing: that kid was not getting on the plane with them. And Tyson's heart could only sink further. Biggs turned out to be a solid choice, as he won the gold medal in the super heavyweight division at the 1984 Olympics, bringing pride to his nation. But for Mike, he became the embodiment of what could never be. Tyson went on to make his professional debut, and fate had history in store for him. With each fight, he inched closer to becoming the youngest heavyweight champion in the world, a slap in the face to the recruiters who had doubted him. But in his mind, there was still unfinished business. Biggs also turned pro shortly after and quickly built up an impressive winning streak. So much so that before long, he crossed paths with Mike once again. Now, Biggs had to challenge Tyson, who would defend his IBF heavyweight title for the first time, his WBA title for the 3rd time, and his WBC title for the 4th time. Both fighting undefeated, Mike with a record of 31 wins, 27 of them by knockout, and Biggs with a respectable 15 wins, 10 by knockout. Before the fight, Biggs continued to publicly mock Tyson. The challenger claimed to know him from before and insisted he had the blueprint to neutralize, dismantle, and defeat him in just a few rounds. In Biggs' mind, the skills of the Iron Kid were nothing more than hype. He was convinced that the sensationalism surrounding Tyson was only because he had never faced a truly great contender, someone like him. And so, fate dealt its cards. 15 rounds of elite boxing were expected, where, at the end of the night on October 16, 1987, only one of these two great fighters would remain undefeated. Poetically, fate had placed two men who already had unfinished history in a direct showdown, and for one of them, their first professional loss would be a scar that could never be erased. With Tony Orlando as the third man in the ring, the long-awaited fight began. From the moment the bell rang, Biggs came out energetic, but he was quickly driven out of the center of the ring by the sheer power of Mike's offense. Moving around constantly, the Olympic gold medalist seemed uninterested in facing the man he claimed to know how to dismantle, making his pre-fight talk sound more like empty hype. From that first round, it was clear that Tyson was the aggressor in this battle.
He's thrown. Well, whatever he does to jail. He's trying for the head. Now we. That was a good shot by Tyson. He really bothered. There is the hook again because his hands are down.
Biggs continued to evade Tyson throughout the second round. He was likely trying to tire him out before launching his own offense, but if this was a test of endurance, Mike had already proven in the past that he was much more than an early round knockout artist. By the end of the round, controversial clinches had already started to appear. There was no escape plan that could save Biggs in the third round.
Some strong shots from Tyson. You see now Biggs again are starting to. And the way that Biggs is moving.
Mike, who never stopped pressing forward, managed to land powerful body shots, while receiving only a few weak counterattacks from his challenger. By the final minute of the round, Tyson was clearly getting more eager to go for the head.
Take it back to his corner. I'm sure Georgie Fitz will say, keep those hands high. Right. People don't realize this. Another left hook. Same thing. 1-2. The cut.
Biggs entered the fourth round already hurt. His left eye was suffering the consequences of facing a puncher like Iron Mike. With an obvious target in sight, Tyson knew exactly where to strike. The Olympic gold medalist attempted a few combinations of his own, but they lacked the power to neutralize Tyson. By the end of the round, he was back to running.
Mike Tyson.
Biggs' injuries worsened going into the fifth round, while Tyson received sharp instructions in his corner. As soon as the bell rang, Tyson immediately launched a devastating right hand, leaving Biggs with no choice but to cling to him like a leech in an attempt to minimize the damage. Biggs moved and retreated as much as he could, but he couldn't always avoid Tyson's fists. His strategy had completely backfired. He was the one who had tired out first, and the young man he had mocked for years was now giving him a masterclass in boxing. Biggs had only won the first round, while Tyson had been dominating the scorecards ever since.
Good education for the public because fans to dominate.
While there was still a chance to turn things around, his performance in the sixth round made a comeback look like an impossible mission. The once revered Olympic gold medalist desperately tried to buy time, clinching every time Mike got close. During the final minute, Tyson's patience wore thin. He chased Biggs down and let his powerful left hand fly. The bell may have saved Biggs this time, but luck would not be on his side for much longer.
This was not necessary. I mean, I figured for him. Instead, he abandoned his tactics in his fight. I love those bars. Come back with a combination of his own.
All the way back to amateur days. Another left hand, and there's a great shot. Biggs is in trouble.
His legs will look steady. Tyson's getting...
Entering the seventh round, Biggs' face was already partially disfigured. yet his expression of discouragement was still visible. Surprisingly, Tyson had to wait in the center of the ring for a few seconds as the Olympic gold medalist, the man who had once stolen his greatest dream, hesitated to rise from his stool and face him. With the spirit of a defeated man, in hindsight, it was clear that his time in the ring was about to expire. The knockout and redemption. The bell rang, and as soon as Mike closed in, Biggs immediately went for the clinch. Biggs tried to extend his left hand and back away, but Mike had already figured out how to close the distance. Gradually, power punches began to land on Biggs' body, and the shell, what was left of the once great fighter who had triumphed at the 1984 Olympics, began to crumble. Biggs was no longer even counterattacking. He had been reduced to nothing more than a punching bag for the young man he had mocked for years. As soon as his guard dropped, a vicious left uppercut exploded on the right side of his face, a key spot to bring him down.
He had to do.
Tyson comes in, Biggs tries to stand one punch.
And he's never, there's a right hand that just caught Biggs. But he didn't put him away.
Oh, that
was a tremendous left hand.
He managed to get up at the count of 8, and Orlando allowed him to continue. 15 seconds remained when Mike received the signal he needed to go for the head of his greatest nemesis, at least up to that point. A sinister right-left combination, repeated twice, was enough to make the giant Olympic gold medalist dance to the rhythm of the fists of the young man whose dream had been stolen years before. And just like a tree being chopped down, Tyrell Biggs was seen collapsing lifelessly onto the canvas, his head resting against the bottom rope, like a child whose father had just sent him to bed.
And 10 seconds to go in a round. There's a left hand. He's down again. It's over. It's all over.
Orlando's count was unnecessary. The fight had been over since that first knockdown, and now it was just a formality. At 2 minutes and 59 seconds of the 7th round, Mike Tyson defeated Tyrell Biggs in one of the most satisfying technical knockouts of his entire professional career. On his face, you could see the young man who had once dreamed of representing his country at the Olympics, now smiling, finally having avenged himself against the man who didn't just take his spot, but chose to turn that decision into years of humiliation. To closing thoughts. If you've made it this far, thank you. Remember, the best way to support my content is by leaving a like on the video. Which other great Iron Mike fight with an equally memorable story behind it would you like to see covered next? Let me know in the comments.